Friday, April 7th, 2000. Prices at the pump soaring for months now, may be headed back down sooner than predicted and more than expected. Details coming up. And would you believe picking up the kids, making a snack, and doing the laundry all before you get home? The latest in minivan convenience. We'll have that story.
First Business, America's news and information leader. Now, here's Trish McShane.
Good morning from Washington. I'm Trish McShane. Barton Eckert has the day off. Encouraging news this morning from American motorists worried about the rising cost of gasoline. The government has dramatically revised its predictions on soaring gas prices going into the summer vacation season, now saying prices should peak this month at an average of $1.46 a gallon before heading down. Earlier predictions of $2 a gallon were revised downward by the Energy Department after taking into account additional oil production announced by oil-producing countries last month. The new forecast has prices averaging $1.39 a gallon after Labor Day. Still, motorists will be paying about 25% more for gasoline this summer than last. On Wall Street, both the Dow Jones Industrials and the NASDAQ posted strong gains for the session, with the tech sector once again leading the way. The blue chips up 80 points on the day. The NASDAQ tacked on 99 points. The long bond yielding 5.79% last quote. The NYSE composite is 8 points higher on volume of over 1 billion shares. On the move, Yahoo down nearly 7%, even after beating Wall Street profit estimates. eBay charging ahead after getting a buy rating from Solomon Smith Barney. Alcoa up. The company checked in with first quarter profits way ahead of estimates. A large loss for Salon.com after the website said it expects to post a loss of 35 to 42 cents a share. Caught in the updraft, Sun Microsystems, America Online, and Compaq Computer. With more on a gentler day for the markets, here's correspondent Dave Browdy of Reuters Financial Television in New York.
A sense of normalcy descended over the markets after a week of wild gyrations. The Dow traded in positive territory all day and closed up 80. The NASDAQ rallied as well, closing up almost 100 points. What calmed things down? Well, the first round of quarterly earnings statements are out, and there were no real surprises. Big cap tech shares received a boost from Goldman Sachs after the investment firm released its list of stocks it calls the Super 7. Those are companies Goldman says should best weather a volatile stock market. On the list, companies such as Oracle, Dell Computer, and Cisco. The best performer on the list, the electronic systems maker Teradyne, which landed up nearly 8 on the day. It was a mixed bag for retailers on the markets. Walmart and Best Buy gained steam, along with continued signs of consumer confidence. Clothing marketer The Gap gave the market a double dose of bad news. It announced the resignation of its COO and reported same-store sales down an average of 11% across the board. But Gap shares ended fractionally higher in the day's trading. Scientists at Celera have announced they've finished the first step in mapping the human genome, which has implications for new medicines and therapies. The news helped re-energize the flagging biotech sector. It sent Celera stocks soaring 22 3/4 to 135 3/4. Looking at the final numbers, the Dow closed up 0.75% at 11,114. The S&P 500 up just under 1%. The NASDAQ also solidly positive, closing at 4,267. And that's the Reuters Market Report from the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Dave Browdy.
Wondering what your Social Security check will be when you retire? Soon you'll be able to go online and find out. The government is setting up a new internet service allowing you to calculate what you'll get from the government when you retire. President Clinton will unveil the internet service later today when he signs legislation repealing a law that reduces benefits of those who work past age 65. If you've decided to take the plunge and purchase a home, here's some good news on mortgage rates. Freddie Mac says 30-year loans fell this week, down to 8.20%. A 15-year mortgage stands at 7.83%, while one-year adjustables climb to 6.79%. And checking your national forecast this morning, not so fast. We may not have seen the end of winter yet. With details, here's All News Channel's Rob Pendleton.
A low-pressure system is bringing winter back to the Midwest. For the forecast, snow in the Midwest from southern South Dakota into northern Iowa. The southern edge of that system will bring rain down to Missouri, moving east across the southern Great Lakes. For the highs, 70s and 80s across the south, but down into the 30s and 40s in the Midwest and Great Lakes. 50s and 60s in the northeast and the northwest. And some 90s along the Mexican border. Rob Pendleton, First Business.
Still ahead on First Business, the international custody battle over 6-year-old Elian Gonzalez still unresolved. The latest developments coming up.
Hot tippers, midnight surfers, best friends, TV experts, handshakers, ex-neighbors, family brokers, online pokers, smart cookies. Ask everyone. Then, before you invest, investigate at Morningstar.com. An oasis of unbiased analysis and expert insight so you can sift through chatter and invest smarter. Morningstar.com, your first, second opinion.
The 1804 silver dollar, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, fine collector's coins valued at over $500,000 each, but neither with the patriotic significance of the first silver dollar of the new millennium. So special that nothing like it will be seen again for 1,000 years. It's the most anticipated silver dollar in history, the 2000 Silver Eagle, available to you now, an extremely limited edition featuring the beloved Walking Liberty colorized in patriotic red, white, and blue by the American Historic Society. Don't miss out on the most patriotic coin in 1,000 years, the first silver dollar of the new millennium at a special low price of just $39.95 with certificate of authenticity and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Save when you buy 3 or more. If you order now, we'll send you your coin in a handsome museum display case as a special bonus. Call and order now. It's the coin of legends, and it's yours now if you order while there's still time. The first silver dollar of the new millennium, just $39.95. Call now. You won't have another opportunity like this in 1,000 years.
In the headlines this morning, top-level meeting scheduled aimed at reuniting Elian Gonzalez with his father, a multi-million-dollar reward for a suspected terrorist, and mapping out the human genetic code. Here's All News Channel's Liz Brummond. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning, Trish. Good morning, everyone. The father of Elian Gonzalez, now in Washington, will meet with Attorney General Janet Reno today. Reno continues to uphold the INS ruling that Elian should be returned to his father. But just how the boy will be transferred from his Miami relatives to Juan Miguel Gonzalez remains the major sticking point. Talks between immigration officials and the relatives broke down yesterday. A minister who visited with Juan Miguel Gonzalez says he is a loving father who wants to see his son. But the relatives refuse to give the boy up without a court hearing and a psychological evaluation, saying taking Elian away now would devastate him.
The most important thing is not to yank him away from the stability and security that is keeping his fragile world intact.
You know, it's very hard for him to understand when this is his son, why this has gotten so complicated. So I think he has some anger about it, which I think is, myself, I think that's a relatively appropriate response.
No timetable has been set for when Elian will finally see his father. The State Department has a $5 million bounty out for a suspected Algerian terrorist. The State Department suspects Abdelmajid Tahoumani of entering the U.S. from Canada to commit terroristic acts and for planting explosives at a ferry terminal. 4 other Algerians have been jailed for allegedly taking part in the terrorist plot. An amazing scientific advance this morning. A private company is closer to completing the blueprint for human beings. Celera Genomics of Maryland has decoded all the pieces of DNA that make up a person's genetic pattern. The next step, Putting the microscopic data together, successfully mapping the human genome could lead to huge advances in science, like cures for genetic defects, diseases, even cloning human beings. And that's a wrap of National Headlines. I'm Liz Bowman for First Business. Trish.
Thanks, Liz. Checking the markets in the UK this morning, a good day for the FTSE 100. The FTSE 100 up 71 points. The yen up, the pound down, the Swiss franc gaining, the euro losing ground. Brent North Sea crude closed down 30 cents to $23.45 the barrel in New York trading. In Mexico City, stocks rallied 2.61% as Wall Street extended its recovery. The Bolsa jumped more than 190 points, closing at 7462.93. The peso down to 9.3 against the dollar. On Asian markets overnight in Japan, stocks finished a bit firmer, recovering from 3 straight sessions of losses, thanks to the overnight rebound on the Nasdaq. The dollar lost value against the yen, while the Nikkei gained more than 29 points. Hong Kong, South Korea, Philippines, and Thailand all finished on the plus side. Indonesia, Singapore, and Australia ending the day up as well. After selecting a new prime minister to succeed Keizo Abuchi, who suffered a stroke earlier this week, Japan's ruling party hoped it would mean an end to the succession crisis. Now there's mounting opposition from critics who are calling for new elections. Business correspondent Ron DePaulis reports.
After only 1 day in office, Yoshiro Mori, Japan's new prime minister, is being pressed by opposition party members and major newspapers to call early elections to prove his mandate to run the country. Mori, a former trade minister, was installed as prime minister with a solid majority from both houses of the Japanese parliament to replace Keizo Abuchi, who has been in a coma since suffering a massive stroke. A pledge to continue his predecessor's economic and political reform initiatives to nurse along Japan's economic recovery brought a quick endorsement for Mori by the U.S. government.
We have found him to be an extremely able and experienced political leader. We also consider Prime Minister Mori to be a strong supporter of the U.S.-Japan relationship and look forward to continuing our close and cooperative relationship with Japan under his leadership.
Even though Mori kept Abuchi's entire cabinet to run his new administration and Liberal Democratic Party officials had rallied to support him, there is mounting criticism to the manner in which he came to power. Some analysts say if Mori does wind up holding a special election, it probably won't cause much of a delay in Japan's recovery timetable.
There's going to be a more limited time for backtracking on reform issues and playing to the grandstand. So if anything, it could be a net plus. But I don't see any major new initiatives until we get the elections behind us and indeed the July summit.
Japan's largest opposition party is calling for a special election as soon as possible, probably sometime in June, after pending budget-related bills have been passed, which would still leave time for any possible government reorganization before world leaders arrive for the G8 summit in July. This is Ron DePaulis reporting.
Coming up a bit later on First Business, Rules of Engagement, the new Samuel L. Jackson, Tommy Lee Jones military thriller. We'll have a review still ahead.